Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we'll be tackling a hot topic, achieving OOPS, object-oriented programming concepts in UiPath. So let's get started. Before we jump into UiPath specific OOPS concepts, it's crucial to have a solid foundation in traditional OOPS principles. Object-oriented programming is a software development approach that promotes code reusability, modularity, and flexibility. Through its core principles like encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism, OOPS empowers us to create efficient and scalable workflows. If you're already aware of OOPS concepts in other languages, for example, Python, Java, C++, or C Sharp, the concepts, the basic understanding of the concept will remain same. But now we'll see how you can achieve those OOPS concepts in UiPath. So now let's see how we can achieve encapsulation in UiPath. Encapsulation is nothing but wrapping up a data member and a method together into a single unit. It is like enclosing in a capsule, as you see in the right hand side. So that is enclosing the related operations and its data. So when it comes to encapsulating code in UiPath, we aim to organize our workflow by hiding the internal complexities and exposing only necessary functionalities. Like just like how we create a custom activity using Visual Code, where you can write C Sharp code, and when you write C Sharp code, you can use OOPS concepts like encapsulation. You can hide all the internal details, like click level details within that custom activity, and then you can just give that final library activity to the end user. I mean, to the user who writes the code in UiPath Studio. So that's how you can achieve encapsulation in UiPath. So by doing this, we can promote code modularity and reusability. Now let's see a quick demo on how we can do that in UiPath. So here's an example workflow to explain encapsulation in UiPath. So firstly, you can go to home and then you can click on process with to start with a blank project. Within that, I'm creating an employee name. So this is a type of string, which you can see here. I'll zoom in. This is a string type. And then I'm assigning an example name called Krishna. And then after that, I'm using a write line and I'm entering that employee name and then the variable that I declared before. So this will be our snippet. So this will be internal details like Krishna can't be modified if I publish this as a snippet. Now take another workflow and I'm calling it as child workflow. So here I'm asking for just drag an input dialog box to ask to prompt the user to enter an employee name. So enter an employee name and then assign that to a variable called employee name. That is also a string type. And call that main workflow in the child workflow. Here I'm just writing again. I'm using same write line again. The one which user entered, that will be displayed here. So now let's run and see. So we have to run from child workflow. So now when you run the child workflow, it will encapsulate the internal details like employee name variable. So the name which I assigned Krishna, I'll just give Ram now. So the name which I given inside the main workflow, that is Krishna, that can be modified, and this variable can be the variable have been hidden, like the employee name variable that we declared inside. So the name that is assigned to that variable will be displayed here, and you can't modify that. So in that way, it will encapsulate the internal details and provides a public interface to interact with it. For example, if I can directly call it, and then that will print Krishna for me. So that these can be a snippet, and where you can hide everything. If you have a function also, you can directly hide it within that snippet. And then child workflow, this will be your the UiPath design where you automate your process. So there you can directly call that snippet, and then it will directly do the functions without we don't even know what is happening inside. So that in that way we'll hide that internal steps. So that's how you can achieve encapsulation in UiPath. So now let's see inheritance in UiPath. So what is inheritance? So when a class includes a property of another class, it is known as inheritance. Inheritance is a process of object reusability. So UiPath brings us the power of inheritance to the world of robotic process automation. It allows us to create a hierarchy of workflow files. So where child workflow can inherit and utilize the properties, variables, and activities defined in the parent workflow. This also promotes the code reuse and minimizes its redundancy and that will enhance our efficiency and maintainability. Now let's see a quick demo on how you can achieve inheritance in UiPath. So as I already mentioned before, inheritance is like extending the properties of parent class to the child class. So in that case, inheritance main is the parent class in our case, and inheritance child is the child class. So inheritance inside inheritance main, I'm declaring a global variable. For example, animal name. How do you declare a global variable? I'm just taking an assign. Firstly, declare it as I can declare a normal variable str test. I'm declaring it, and it is part of inheritance main. So inheritance main workflow. So now go to data manager, and then under inheritance main, you'll see the variables of that particular workflow. Three dots, and then under str test, click on scope, and then make it global, and that will become a global variable now. So if you see for under global variables, we can take str test. So that's how we create a global variable. So like that, I've created two variables. One is animal name and another is animal sound. So these are the variables that I created in parent class. So we'll take dog and cat. So, assume in parent workflow for animal name, I'm assuming dog, and then sound how it sounds. It sounds wolf. So after that, I'm just printing that this has been called. This has been written in main workflow to just deep. I mean to just know what is there. I'm just writing a line, and then animal name will be animal name, global variables dot animal name, and then sound will be global variables dot animal sound. So that's what we did in main workflow. So inside child, we can make use of those two variables inside the child also. So I'm calling the main here inside the child workflow, and then I'm again renaming it global variables namespace dot animal name to cat now, and then it's sound, and then I'm again printing. Now let's see. Yeah. So if you see here, firstly it printed whatever we had in main workflow. So there we already declared two variables, animal name and animal sound. If you see in the child class, I haven't declared any variables. So these are the global variables. Animal name and sound are global variables, and then we made use of those, and those are mainly in main workflow. And then we inherited main workflow, and then we use the same variable names in child also. It is like inheriting the main class variables in the child class also. Likewise, you can create any n number of workflows which extends the previous parent class. So that's how you achieve inheritance in UiPath. Now let's see the next important OOPS concept, polymorphism. Polymorphism means one name, many forms. So one function behaves in different forms. In other words, many forms of a single object is called polymorphism. So in UiPath, we can achieve polymorphism by leveraging arguments and templates. Arguments serves as placeholders that allows different workflows to consume inputs and produce outputs, just like how we use in and out arguments. Templates, on the other hand, by providing a blueprint for creating multiple instances of a workflow, and those can be different use cases. So that flexibility allows us to build scalable and adaptable automation solutions. Now let's see how you can achieve polymorphism in UiPath. So firstly, I've created a base workflow, which is main workflow called draw shape polymorphism. So I'm asking user to enter a shape name. So that will be stored in a variable called shape name. So that will be a string type. And I'm creating a child workflow where it takes in argument as a shape name, and then within that I'm using a switch condition, and it will based on the user input, it will call the respective case. For example, if user prompted circle, it will go to case circle, and if it is rectangle, it will be rectangle. So when I run the main workflow, it will ask for shape name, and then based on the shape name, I'm calling single workflow, but within that we have many forms, like we have many shapes, circle and rectangle. So if I run this, so it will be prompting what should be the shape name. So I'm entering circle. I've created only two XAMLs. One is circle and rectangle. So I'm entering circle now. I'm clicking on OK. And then now if I see output, it is telling drawing circle. So inside draw circle, I wrote draw circle. I mean, inside draw circle, I used right line and then it's writing draw circle. Just like that, I'm using draw rectangle in right line. So these are different forms of single main form. So one XAML, many forms. Now let's see some expert tips and best practices. Firstly, always plan and design your workflows by considering the modularity and reusability aspects. So that will save you time and effort in the long run. Secondly, thoroughly understand the environment and constraints before implementing. And that implementation can be abstracted libraries or interfaces. And lastly, adapt a naming convention and documentation strategy that will make it easier for you and your team to understand and maintain. Next, we'll see some real world case studies. Let's dive into a couple of real world case studies where OOPS concepts shine in UiPath. So imagine you have a complex process with multiple modules. By encapsulating each module as a custom activity, you can reuse them across different projects, simplifying the future updates and maintenance. Another scenario, you could involve inheritance where you have a series of similar tasks performed by different robots. By inheriting from a parent workflow and utilizing shared resources, you can enhance efficiency and avoiding the redundancy in code. And finally, if you made it until here, just put a comment that we made it. Congratulations. Now you can take your automation projects to the next level. Remember, mastering OOPS concepts requires practice. So try to experiment and explore new possibilities. We hope this guide has been insightful and encourages you to further explore the power of UiPath and object-oriented programming. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting UiPath content. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. Keep automating and we'll catch you in the next video.